If I am at the airport and I see a Mercedes cab, I'm going to avoid it because I don't want to pay so much for that. Is there hope for Singapore's shrinking taxi fleet? The number of taxis on Singapore's roads has plummeted by 41.1% since December 2017, while the number of private hire cars hit a record high in February 2024, marking a staggering 400% increase since 2013. As taxi drivers grapple with lower earnings amidst rising costs and stiff competition from ride-hailing, Singapore's taxi industry faces an uncertain future. But new regulations covering the point-to-point transport sector, which covers both taxis and PHCs, were announced during the Ministry of Transport's budget debate on March 5th. These measures aim to lower operating costs for taxis and enhance their financial viability. But can they truly achieve this goal? Let's look at some of the online comments we've found to see if we can shed some light on the situation. Okay, first comment. Please don't let taxi die out. Street hailing is what older folks who are not so smartphone savvy depend on, and having an alternative will also mean that ride-hailing apps are not the only ones setting prices. The first part is correct. According to what the Ministry of Transport has said, taxis still serve people who can't use smartphones very well, older people, or tourists. These are the key people that taxis still serve, and the fact that taxis still exist means there are people out there who take them. If not, they would have been pretty much totally killed out, I think. But the problem here is the second part, which is regulating prices. Most of the rides nowadays are taken by private hire cars and ride-hailing apps. So if most of the market is there and all these guys are in competition with each other, they regulate the prices among each other. Having an alternative to that, street hail, is not really going to have an effect on ride-hailing prices. Perhaps increase taxi rates rather than reduce rentals. I think what you mean is increase taxi meter fees rather than reducing the cost of renting a taxi. Reducing rental doesn't amount to much, perhaps $10 to $20 a day. Okay, I'm gonna stop him right there and say $10 to $20 a day times 2,000 taxis, that's quite a lot of money. So you have to think from a business perspective in this case. This was already done last December, but increased the cab fares and surcharge rates for some of its taxis, and the LTA also regulates this. They do keep an eye on how much taxis are charging. The problem here is that obviously in Singapore, the price of a lot of things has already gone up. Inflation's up, GST's up. This year, everything pay more, right? So one of the problems, if we relate it back to our first comment, if things get too expensive, how do older folk who may not have much disposable income afford taxis in that case? They're not taking a taxi every day, but still affordability, I think, should be an important thing. Here in the last part of the comment, how about a shift to make taxis luxury rides? Example, more Lexus cabs. Well, they already kind of tried that with Mercedes cabs, and personally, if I am at the airport and I see a Mercedes cab, I'm going to avoid it because I don't want to pay so much for that. Actually, from the private hire car segment, one of the types of cars that has become very popular is actually those giant MPVs, like a Toyota Velfire. Whether or not running a cab as that kind of luxury ride alternative is workable is not so easy to answer, because like I said, these private hire guys already have kind of gone into that sector. What is the competition to ride-hailing? What do we think will happen when taxi population cease to exist with one dominant ride-hailing player? So obviously we are talking about monopoly power here. Grab is trying to acquire the taxi company Transcab. That hasn't been approved yet because the anti-competition watchdog is actually still looking into it. The concern here is we don't want one big firm taking everything over, not just private hire cars, but taxis as well. And as we are seeing why they are doing that is because they're trying to add to their fleet. The bigger your fleet is, the more clout you have. But the problem here is not just about the size of your fleet. The problem is about the platform. If you don't have your own app, which a lot of taxi companies don't, that means you're always beholden to someone else's pocket if you're taking rides from them. CDG, ComfortDelGro, which has their own app, and that has worked out pretty well for them. The important thing is about having a viable ride-hailing platform. And then it becomes a problem of platform competition rather than just the size of your fleet. So there are these two things that we need to balance. And the government is definitely keeping an eye on the fleet side of things. But another concern that comes out from this is, what if a big giant ride-hailer decides to go, okay, I'm not making money here, by, drop my, kind of like what Uber did back in 2018. And they basically just sent a message and said, we are merging, bye. So in that case, Grab bought over Uber's operations, which was a good thing. But imagine if they had just, totally closed shop. All these people who were dependent on ride-hailing, whether you're a commuter or a driver, would have suddenly had no alternative, and that would have been bad. Taxis should be the base where everyone wants to take. That is not a bad idea, but again, the problem here is taxis are already, like that. Private hire cars are already like that. So we're already far past the point where taxis can be the base. If anything, it's the other way around. What experts have told me is that taxis are the premium part of ride-hailing because they work longer hours, they often do double shifts, and they're much more available during weird hours than private hire cars are. I mean, go try and get a Grab at 1 a.m., see what I mean. These two different kinds of transport are treated the same way by the government. There is materially not much difference between a taxi and a private hire car. So if there is no differentiation between these two things, how can one thing be the base? And how can one thing, be the add-on to that base? We'll see, because the Land Transport Authority is still looking into the point-to-point transport industry. It's doing a review, and the results of that should be out later in this year. So is there hope for Singapore's shrinking taxi fleet? Yes, I think there is hope. We look at the market organically. The problem is how taxis and private hire cars are treated. Because if you have a private hire car, at any moment that can turn into your own private, car. And that is a great advantage. I think that is one of the reasons why people hire private hire cars to make money on the side and to drive it as a normal car when you want to. So what the government, I think, has to do is to kind of figure out, what do we want these cars to do? When do we want these cars to be like taxis, and what do we want taxis to do? If we continue as we are now, what one expert had actually told me is that companies no longer see the value of investing in taxi companies because it's not worth the cost. There still will exist taxis, but just on what scale? So I thank you for watching. If you lasted all the way to the end of this video, if you have any comments, please leave them below. If you also think that taxis are doomed, please let us know why.